There is a language of filmmaking that I call the cinematic lexicon, just because it sounds cool. And it's essentially a language that has been taught to viewers over the last century. And it's important to learn this language. Just like if you're going to write a book, you want to write it in a language that people understand. You know, for example, in a flashback sequence, you want everything glowy. And that tells people that's a flashback. Now, when you actually remember in your mind, does it look glowy in your mind? It doesn't matter, because in every movie that your viewers have seen, it's always glowy, and there's always film grain. Even if it's only, you know, in 2005, there's film grain in a flashback because that's part of the lexicon. And, you know, it got developed, of course, back when film was more grainy in the past. And so even though someone's memory might have been shot on digital 5 years ago, you still want film grain because it helps support your story. It helps support your message that this is a flashback, and it's part of that language. Okay, in this movie, this woman has a flashback to when she was a little girl and her sister told her a secret, which is a clue because she's been searching for her sister since she was little. And so we're going to do something a little different here, and we're going to make this a flashback scene. So we're going to use the Filmstyles plugins as a little more of an effect, a special effect, instead of being so subtle like we've been doing in the other demos. And you notice, I mean, this is a nice looking shot. Jack, our DP, was on a train, did a really good job keeping everything in frame. But, you know, it definitely looks like video. So let's see what we can do. Double click the clip. We'll go to the Filters tab, press slash to drop the Filmstyles filter onto the clip. We'll bring up the gamma and to more of a filmic gamma. We'll bring it up kind of about to 80. Then we're going to turn this white diffusion on because every dream sequence has to have diffusion, obviously. I mean, that's an actual law in Hollywood. I mean, you can get in trouble if you don't use white diffusion on a flashback sequence. You'll never work in this town again. So, you know, we've got parameters here we can tweak. You know, the white limit, of course, limits the amount of white, believe it or not. And the blur radius can make the effect, you know, bigger or smaller. Because this is a special effect, we can turn some grain on. We can even turn the scale of the grain up a little bit so it becomes really grainy, because people are used to thinking that flashbacks were shot on film because they didn't have video back then, and those VHS decks were really heavy. So we do want to put some grain on this shot, and that looks nice. And now we're going to press Shift slash, and of course bring our 35mm depth of field plug-in. We'll bring up darken and bring down feathering. We'll set our mask. Now we're going to have to track this mask. I don't know. Let's find out. You know, anytime you're setting a mask, you just want to make sure, move around in the shot a little bit. And yeah, it looks like we are going to need to track it a little bit. You know, we got a little focal length change here at the beginning. So it's working here. Let's just bring it up a little bit. And at the very beginning of this clip, we're going to set a keyframe for the center, and probably height and width too, why not? And whenever it kind of goes weird, let's see, you know, probably right about there. We want to get to where her sister's head is the furthest out of the frame. And then we're just going to move the shape center over, which is going to set a new keyframe. And we'll even give it a little more width and height. And see, there she goes back in again. So we could actually bring the width in a little bit. We're going a little overboard here, but that's okay. And right there, we'll bring the center over. And there. And again, just bring up the size of the mask a little bit. And there, we're going to need a little more width. Now, you know, sometimes this type of filter, you know, doing a blur mask for a flashback sequence, it works even if the edge of someone is a little blurry. You know, sometimes that's what you want. But let's now bring our feathering up to normal. We'll bring our darken down. We're probably going to go a little overboard on the blur because, again, this is a flashback. This is not supposed to look real. It's a memory. So we're telling the story here, and we want this to look like a memory. And it's going to be slow-mo, except for the sound. We're going to do some nice looping with the kids, you know, for the whispering. And, you know, you get the waving and all that. So we didn't really have to track the mask all that well. But, you know, it was a good little exercise. It didn't take that long. And, yeah, that looks great. That's just the look we were looking for. Now, once again, as always, remove attributes. Click filters. There's our before. And there is our flashback look. Obviously, that is not going to work as a flashback. And that is.